So that word tariff, it's everywhere again, right? It sounds like some simple tax, but it can spark global trade wars and change the price of pretty much everything from your lunch to your car. But what does it actually mean? And more importantly, who really ends up paying the price? Let's get into it.
Okay, you've probably heard the word a million times, I'm sure. But let's get real for a second. What is a tariff?
Honestly, it's pretty simple. A tariff is just a tax. That's it. It's a fee a government charges on products coming in from other countries. Kind of like an entrance fee for foreign stuff trying to get in.
Okay, so why would a government even do that? Well, the main goal is basically protection. Let's imagine a scenario. Say, U.S. bakeries sell a loaf of bread for $3, but a bakery over in China can make the same exact bread for just $1. Well, you and I are probably going to buy the cheaper Chinese bread, right? So to help out the local guys, the U.S. government might slap a $3 tariff on that Chinese bread. All of a sudden, that $1 loaf now costs $4 here, and hey, that $3 local bread is looking pretty good.
And that brings us to the multi-billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Who actually pays for this tax? Is it the foreign company? Is it the government that slapped on the tax? Or is it somebody else?
So to figure that out, we've got to look at both sides of the coin here. Because with tariffs, it's always this tricky balancing act, between protecting your own businesses and keeping prices down for everybody.
All right, so here's the debate. The argument for tariffs, it's all about shielding your local businesses from getting steamrolled by super cheap foreign competition. And hey, the government gets some extra tax money out of it. But the argument against it, well, that protection comes with a price tag. It usually means higher prices for us, the consumers, and it can really hurt other local businesses that actually need those imported goods to make their own products.
And you know what? Sometimes that protection plan works out perfectly. I mean, look at Harley-Davidson. Back in the early 80s, they were in big trouble. Their market share had just tanked, all thanks to these cheaper, really high-quality bikes coming in from Japan. But then, a massive 45% tariff on those imported bikes gave Harley the breathing room it desperately needed. It gave them time to regroup, innovate, and come roaring back. It's kind of the classic tariff success story.
But there's almost always a flip side, a major downside. And that protection often creates a ripple effect that goes all the way from the shipping container right into your wallet.
So, let's follow the money, shall we? It's a pretty clear chain reaction. Let's say a U.S. sandwich shop loves using this really affordable bread they import from Mexico. Step 1, a tariff gets placed on that bread. Step 2, the importer has to raise the price to cover that new tax. Step 3, that means the sandwich shop's cost just went up. And what happens next? You guessed it. Step 4, you end up paying more for your lunch. And just like that, the cost of that tariff has landed squarely on your plate.
And believe me, the consequences can get way, way bigger than just a pricey sandwich. When countries start throwing tariffs at each other, back and forth, it can spark what we call a trade war. To really get it, let's break it down with a simple little story.
Okay, so picture two countries. You've got Cookie Land, and yeah, they make the best cookies. And then you have Pie Land, home of amazing pies. They're happily trading with each other. Cookies for pies, pies for cookies. Life is good. It's a sweet deal for everyone.
But then, one day, the government in Cookie Land decides it needs to protect its own local pie makers. So boom, they slap a tariff on all the pies coming in from Pie Land. Well, Pie Land isn't too happy about that. They feel it's totally unfair, so they retaliate with their own tariff on cookies. And just like that, what started as one simple move has exploded into a full-blown trade war. And this right here is where all those nasty, unintended consequences start popping up. I mean, look at this list. Suddenly, prices for both cookies and pies are shooting up. Businesses that need imported sugar or flour, they're getting squeezed. Relations between the two countries get tense. And you know what else? Without that tough competition from abroad, some of the local companies might just get a little lazy. Quality can slip. Innovation just stalls.
And that little story, it perfectly illustrates the biggest danger of tariffs. The idea might start with good intentions, to protect local jobs. But the chain reaction it can trigger often ends up hurting pretty much everyone. Consumers, businesses, entire economies on both sides of the fight. Okay, so enough about Cookie Land and Pie Land. Let's get back to the real world. How does this stuff actually play out? Do these tariffs ever really work the way they're supposed to? Well, the honest answer is sometimes, but it's tricky. And here we have a tale of two very different strategies. On one side, you have a huge success story that helped build an industrial giant. And on the other, a recent conflict where, honestly, it's really hard to find anyone who came out on top.
So, back in the 60s and 70s, South Korea was really smart about this. They used high tariffs to protect their brand new car companies, Hyundai and Kia. But here's the key. That protection didn't make them lazy. No, it pushed them to get better, to innovate, to improve their quality. They paired that with some really clever diplomacy to make sure other countries didn't retaliate, and voila, a massive industrial success story was born.
But the US-China trade war that really got going in 2018? Whoa, that is a completely different story. The idea was to protect American industries, right? Reduce the trade deficit? But when the US put on tariffs, China hit back almost immediately with tariffs of their own. This wasn't the 1970s anymore. This was a heavyweight match between two of the most interconnected economies on the planet.
And the result? It wasn't pretty. Instead of creating a boom, one major analysis from Moody's Analytics estimated the conflict actually led to the loss of 300,000 American jobs, not to mention slowing down economic growth.
And it wasn't a one-sided loss. Not at all. As you can see here, Chinese companies got hit hard too. American consumers ended up paying higher prices for all sorts of things. When the dust settled, it was really a negative result for both of the main players in the game. Which of course leads to a really interesting question. If the two biggest economies in the world were both taking a hit, did anyone actually win this thing? Believe it or not, Vietnam. Yep. As all these companies scrambled to avoid those new US tariffs on Chinese-made goods, where do they go? They packed up their factories and moved production, a lot of them, to neighboring countries like Vietnam. And Vietnam's economy got this massive, totally unexpected boost. Talk about a perfect example of unintended consequences.
Okay, so let's circle all the way back. We've looked at the theory, we've heard the stories, we've seen the real-world data. It's time to answer our big question. Who really pays for a tariff?
Well, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. More often than not, that cost gets passed right down the line to consumers, to you and me. So the real question, the one we're left with, is this. Is that trade-off worth it? Sure, for every Harley-Davidson that gets a second chance to thrive, you might have a trade war that hurts both sides and creates consequences nobody saw coming. At the end of the day, tariffs aren't just a simple tax. They're a really big gamble. And that's the thing to keep in mind the next time you hear they're back in the news.